6 months after the Kepler incident, the galaxy was learning to adapt to a new reality. Earth's protection had emboldened peaceful species to resist aggression, while predatory civilizations found themselves facing an opponent they could not intimidate or defeat. But the hegemony's hardliners had not given up. Supreme War Marshal Kyung-ho, the most militant leader in hegemony space, had spent months rebuilding their fleet and planning revenge against the humans who had humiliated their forces. Earth revealed only a fraction of their capabilities at Kepler, he announced, to his assembled commanders aboard the massive battle station Dark Victory. They defeated our third fleet with surgical precision, but that tells us nothing about their ability to fight a total war. The Dark Victory was the hegemony's most powerful weapon, a mobile fortress the size of a small moon. Around it floated the largest armada ever assembled, over 15,000 warships representing the combined might of every aggressive species in the galaxy. Admiral Sung Jin, commanding the Earth Defense Fleet from his flagship Eternal Guardian, watched the enemy build up through long-range sensors. For months, intelligence reports had warned of the hegemony's preparation for a final assault on both Earth and the liberated worlds under human protection. "They're not just targeting us," reported Captain Yeji, his diplomatic liaison. "Intercepted communications show planned simultaneous attacks on 17 different systems. They want to break our ability to protect anyone." On Earth, President Kim convened an emergency session of the Defense Council. The situation was grimmer than the public knew. The hegemony's new alliance included not just their original member species, but several previously neutral governments who feared human dominance more than they valued human protection. "Intelligence estimates?" President Kim asked. General Park answered from his position at the holographic display. 15,000 enemy vessels confirmed, possibly more hiding in deep space. Their target list includes Earth, the Kepler colonies, and every world that has requested our protection. Our response capabilities? The full Earth Defense Fleet numbers just over 4,000 ships. We can protect some targets, but not all of them simultaneously. Dr. Yuna, now serving as Earth's chief xenological advisor, offered additional analysis. The psychological warfare aspect is significant. They want to prove that human protection is unreliable. If they can destroy several protected worlds while we're busy defending Earth, it will shatter confidence in our guarantees. Captain Hyunwoo, Earth's chief military engineer, had been working frantically to prepare defensive systems throughout human-controlled space. "The Sol system is ready, Madam President. Mars Command can coordinate fleet movements. The asteroid belt defensive platforms are online. Luna Base can serve as our final fallback position." But President Kim was thinking beyond just defending Earth. "Captain Yeji, what response have we received from our diplomatic requests for Allied support?" Mixed results. The Kepler colonies and 12 other liberated worlds have offered their full military support, but their combined fleets add maybe 300 vessels to our strength. The Galactic Council voted to provide logistical support but stopped, short of direct military intervention. The harsh reality was that Earth faced the largest enemy fleet in galactic history with limited Allied support. Most species preferred to wait and see who would win rather than risk choosing the losing side. On the bridge of the Dark Victory, War Marshal Kyung-ho received confirmation that all hegemony forces were in position. "Begin the assault. Show this galaxy what happens to species who defy the natural order." The attack came simultaneously across 17 star systems. Hegemony forces emerged from hyperspace around every world under human protection, their overwhelming numbers designed to force Earth to choose which colonies to save. Admiral Sung Jin faced the most difficult decision in human military history. With limited ships and unlimited targets, he could not protect everyone. All commanders implement Protocol 7. Divide fleet assets according to population priorities. Defend the greatest number of lives possible. But as the Earth Defense Fleet split up to meet multiple threats, they revealed something the enemy had not expected. The human fleet was larger than anyone had realized. From hidden bases throughout the galaxy, additional Earth vessels decloaked and joined the battle. Ships that had been disguised as asteroids, space stations that revealed themselves as mobile fortresses, and entire fleets that had been hiding in the empty spaces between star systems. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Seo-young from the Eternal Guardian's tactical station, "all reserve forces are reporting in. Total Earth military assets now number 12,000 vessels, Admiral Sungjin smiled grimly. For 3 centuries, Earth had been preparing for exactly this moment. The 4,000 ships revealed at Kepler had been only the beginning, but the hegemony still outnumbered human forces, and their assault was carefully coordinated. War Marshal Kyung-ho had learned from the Kepler defeat. This time there would be no mercy and no surgical precision. This would be total war. The Battle of Sol began when hegemony vanguard forces emerged at the edge of Earth's solar system. What they found waiting for them defied all expectations. The entire solar system had been transformed into a fortress. Every planet, every moon, every major asteroid hosted defensive installations. But more shocking than the defensive preparations was what floated in formation around Earth itself. Thousands upon thousands of warships. Not just Earth Defense Fleet vessels, but ships from every species that had ever been protected by human forces. The Kepler colonies had sent their entire rebuilt navy. Refugee civilizations had contributed every vessel they could spare. Even former hegemony worlds that had been liberated sent ships to join Earth's defense. Captain Jiwoo, now commanding the Kepler Liberation Fleet, opened communications to Admiral Sungjin. Earth defended us when we had nothing to offer in return. Today we defend Earth. The diverse Allied fleet included Zephyri stealth ships, Crystal World energy vessels, and even a few converted hegemony warships crewed by defectors like War Commander Do-hyun, who had chosen to fight for protection rather than conquest. War Marshal Kyung-ho stared at the tactical display showing the massive Allied fleet. Impossible. Intelligence reported only 4,000 human vessels. His aide, a cybernetic officer named Jinwoo, provided the grim analysis. Sir, we're detecting over 8,000 Allied vessels in the Sol system alone, and our attacks on other systems are meeting similar unexpected resistance. The truth was that Earth had spent 6 months since Kepler building the galaxy's first true defensive alliance. Species that had been enemies for centuries found common cause in protecting innocent life. But the hegemony's assault was not without success. Several lightly defended systems fell to overwhelming force. Billions of civilians died before human reinforcements could arrive. Each loss weighed heavily on Admiral Sungjin and his commanders. We can't save everyone, Admiral Sungjin told his assembled staff during a brief tactical break, but we can make sure that this kind of slaughter never happens again. The turning point came when War Commander Do-hyun, now serving as a human ally, broadcast a message to all hegemony forces. I am Do-hyun, formerly of the Third Fleet. I have fought beside humans for 6 months. I have seen what they truly fight for. We do not have to be conquerors. We can choose to be protectors. His message, transmitted on hegemony military frequencies, sparked defections throughout the enemy fleet. Entire squadrons changed sides rather than continue fighting for a cause they no longer believed. In War Marshal Kyung-ho watched his grand alliance crumble as species after species realized that human protection was preferable to hegemony conquest. All remaining forces fall back to dark victory. We make our final stand here. The battle for the dark victory lasted 18 hours. The massive battle station's weapons could destroy entire fleets, but it faced an enemy unlike any in galactic history. Human vessels coordinated with Allied ships in perfect harmony, each species contributing their unique strengths to the common defense. When the dark victory finally surrendered, War Marshal Kyung-ho found himself facing the same choice that War Commander Do-hyun had faced months earlier. Admiral Sungjin offered medical aid and protection to all hegemony survivors, including the leaders who had ordered the attacks on innocent worlds. Why? Kyung-ho asked, his mechanical voice filled with confusion. We tried to destroy your entire species. Admiral Sungjin looked at the defeated War Marshal with the same compassion that had defined human policy throughout the conflict. Because hatred only breeds more hatred. If we want to break the cycle of violence, someone has to choose mercy first. In the aftermath of what historians would call the Liberation War, the galaxy's political structure changed forever. The Galactic Council relocated to Luna Base, symbolically acknowledging Earth's role as the protector of peaceful civilization. But more importantly, the alliance forged in battle became a permanent coalition for peace. Species that had fought each other for millennia learned to cooperate in defending the innocent. Ambassador Dong-yun, now serving as Earth's representative to the new Galactic Alliance, addressed the assembled delegates 1 year after the Liberation War. We did not seek to become the galaxy's guardians. That responsibility was forced upon. The rescue operations in Kepler space continued for 3 days. Human medical ships worked alongside Kepler civilian vessels to save both alien colonists and hegemony survivors. War Commander Do-hyun found himself in the strange position of being a prisoner who was receiving better medical care than his own forces had ever provided. Dr. Minji, the chief medical officer aboard the Earth ship Mercy's Hand, checked on the War Commander's cybernetic repairs. His artificial parts had been damaged in the battle, but human engineers had somehow improved them while fixing them. Why? Do-hyun asked, his voice no longer harsh and metallic. The human repairs had restored his original vocal patterns. Why save the lives of your enemies? Dr. Minji looked up from her medical scanner. Because that's what civilized beings do. Your people are not evil, War Commander. You've just been taught that strength means conquest. We believe strength means protection. Do-hyun stared at the human woman. In 3 decades of military service, no enemy had ever shown him kindness. The hegemony taught that mercy was weakness. But these humans had defeated his entire fleet and then worked to save his people's lives. Your technology, he said quietly. Where did it come from? We had no record of humans possessing advanced capabilities. We've been learning, Dr. Minji replied. For 300 years, we studied every species in the galaxy. We took the best ideas from each civilization and improved upon them. But most importantly, we learned from your mistakes. On the bridge of the Horizon's Edge, Admiral Tay was coordinating the massive rescue effort while dealing with communications from across the galaxy. Every major government wanted to know who the humans were and what they wanted. Admiral, reported Commander Jinwoo, his tactical officer, we're receiving priority transmissions from 17 different governments. They all want immediate diplomatic contact. And the Galactic Council? Ambassador Hyun has requested permission to visit Kepler Station personally. He wants to meet with human representatives. Tay considered the request. For 3 centuries, Earth's policy had been complete secrecy. Now they were being thrust into the center of galactic politics whether they wanted it or not. Send a message to Earth Command. Request diplomatic instructions. Also prepare a full battle assessment for transmission to the Galactic Council. Lieutenant Chae-young, the ship's intelligence officer, looked up from her analysis station. Sir, the battle data shows some interesting patterns. The hegemony forces fought bravely, but their tactics were outdated by at least a century. They're using strategies that worked against other galactic species but are completely ineffective against our technology. That was the key advantage Earth possessed. While other species fought each other using similar technologies and tactics, humans had observed everyone and learned from everyone. Earth's military doctrine incorporated the best strategic thinking from dozens of different civilizations. On Kepler Station, Administrator Minho was trying to comprehend what had happened to his system. 3 days ago, he had been preparing for the destruction of his colonies. Now he was hosting the most important diplomatic meeting in galactic history. The human ambassador will arrive within the hour, announced his aide Woo-sung. The Galactic Council is sending a full delegation. Even the hegemony wants to participate in the talks. What do we know about human intentions? Minho asked. Very little. Their ships continue rescue operations. They've offered medical aid and engineering assistance to repair damage from the battle, but they haven't made any territorial claims or demands for tribute. That puzzled many galactic observers. Every other species that demonstrated military superiority used it to gain political advantage. The humans seemed genuinely interested only in helping people. The human diplomatic shuttle was unlike any vessel in galactic databases. It moved silently through space using propulsion systems that produced no detectable emissions. When it docked with Kepler Station, the airlock opened to reveal beings that looked surprisingly ordinary. Ambassador Dong-hyun was a middle-aged human with kind eyes and gray hair. He wore simple clothing rather than elaborate military dress or royal robes. Behind him came Colonel Chae-young, a military attaché who looked more like a teacher than a warrior. Administrator Minho, Ambassador Dong-hyun said in perfect galactic standard language. Thank you for hosting these discussions. We apologize for our sudden appearance, but we could not stand by while innocent people faced destruction. Minho was struck by the human's genuine warmth. Ambassador, your people saved 4 billion lives. We are in your debt. You owe us nothing. Protecting innocent life is not a transaction. It is a moral obligation. When the Galactic Council delegation arrived, led by Ambassador Hyun, the meetings began in earnest. The station's main conference room had been hastily expanded to accommodate representatives from dozens of different species. Ambassador Hyun spoke first. Ambassador Dong-Hyun, the Galactic Council has been trying to contact Earth for 3 centuries. Why have you remained silent until now? Dong-Hyun activated a holographic display showing galactic history. Because we were studying. When we first detected galactic civilization, we were excited to make contact. But then we reviewed your historical records. The display showed graphic images of interstellar wars, conquered peoples, and destroyed civilizations. We saw the Vegan genocide, the Crystal World subjugation, the destruction of the Peaceful Alliance. We realized that in galactic politics the weak are devoured by the strong. So you chose isolation, Ambassador Hyun said. We chose preparation. Earth decided that when we entered galactic affairs, we would be strong enough to protect not just ourselves, but others who needed protection. Colonel Chae-young added, for 3 centuries, we have been preventing conflicts through anonymous intelligence sharing. We have quietly stopped 17 potential wars and prevented 8 genocides, but indirect action has limits. The room fell silent as representatives realized the implications. The humans had been galactic guardians for centuries without anyone knowing. War Commander Do-hyun, attending the meeting under human protection, spoke up. Your fleet disabled 800 of our most advanced warships without destroying a single vessel. How is such precision possible? Ambassador Dong-hyun looked directly at the cyborg commander. Because we value life, all life. Even the lives of those who threaten others. Our weapons are designed to stop aggression, not to slaughter. But such mercy makes you vulnerable, Do-hyun protested. Enemies you spare will return to fight again. Colonel Chae-young smiled. War Commander, look around this room. You are sitting peacefully with people you were trying to kill 3 days ago. You are receiving medical treatment from the same humans who defeated your fleet. Tell me, do you still want to fight us? Do-hyun was quiet for a long moment. No, he admitted. I find that I do not. That is why mercy is not weakness. It is the ultimate strength. Force can compel obedience, but only compassion can change hearts. Ambassador Hyun leaned forward. What does Earth want from the galaxy? Peace, Ambassador Dong-hyun replied simply. We want a galaxy where the strong protect the weak instead of exploiting them. Where disputes are resolved through diplomacy instead of warfare. Where no species lives in fear of extinction. And if the galaxy refuses, Dong-hyun's expression remained calm but his voice carried steel. Then we will continue to do what we have always done. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves, with or without galactic approval. The message was clear. Earth was not asking for permission to be the galaxy's protector. They were stating their intention to fulfill that role regardless of what others wanted. As the formal meetings concluded, War Commander Do-hyun approached Ambassador Dong-hyun privately. Your people have given me much to think about. The hegemony has always believed that conquest brings order, but perhaps protection brings something better. What will you do now, War Commander? Do-hyun looked out at the stars through the station's viewport. I will return to hegemony space. I will tell our leaders what I have learned. Not all will listen, but some might. Change must begin somewhere. As the various delegations prepared to leave Kepler Station, Administrator Minho reflected on how completely his world had changed. 3 days ago, his system had been defenseless against aggression. Now it was under the protection of the most powerful fleet in galactic history. But more than that, the galaxy itself had changed. For the first time in centuries, the weak had champions who fought not for conquest but for justice. War Commander Do-hyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the peaceful Kepler colonies through the view screen. His cybernetic implants glowed red as he calculated the most efficient way to break their resistance. Target the agricultural stations first, he ordered his weapons officer. Starving civilians surrender faster than well-fed ones. The hegemony fleet spread out across the system like a metal plague. 800 warships against 30 outdated patrol boats. It would be over in hours. Commander, reported Lieutenant Jinwoo from the sensor station. We're receiving a transmission from the colonies. They're requesting terms for surrender. Do-hyun's metallic face twisted into what might have been a smile. Tell them there are no terms. Total submission or total destruction. They have 1 hour to decide. But the War Commander was wrong about one thing. The transmission was not from the Kepler colonies. It was from Captain June's hidden observation post where the human officer had been tracking every hegemony ship movement. Earth Command, this is Deep Space Observer 7. June reported. Hegemony forces have entered Kepler space. 817 vessels total. They're targeting civilian infrastructure first, just as Dr. Yuna predicted. In the asteroid belt beyond Pluto, Admiral Tay received the report aboard his flagship. Around him, the Earth Defense Fleet prepared for humanity's first official military action in galactic affairs. Signal from Earth, announced Commander Sora, his chief of operations. President Kim sends her regards and reminds all commanders that we are protectors, not conquerors. Tay nodded. Understood. Lieutenant Minsu, open a channel to all ships. It's time. The young communications officer's hands trembled slightly as he activated the fleet-wide broadcast system. This moment would change everything for both Earth and the galaxy. Attention all vessels, Tay announced. For 3 centuries we have watched from the shadows while peaceful worlds suffered. Today that ends. Today we stand with the innocent against the aggressor. Today we show the galaxy what Earth stands for. Throughout the hidden fleet, human sailors prepared for battle. These were not soldiers seeking glory or conquest. They were ordinary people who had volunteered to protect those who could not protect themselves. In the Kepler system, Minho watched his tactical display with growing despair. The hegemony ships were moving into attack formation. His 30 patrol boats were already retreating to protect the evacuation ships carrying civilians away from the outer colonies. "Sir," called his communications officer, "we're getting strange readings on the long-range sensors. Multiple contacts approaching from deep space." Minho frowned. "Galactic Council reinforcements?" "No, sir, these ships, they're not in any database. The sensor signatures are completely unknown." On his flagship, War Commander Do-hyun was receiving similar reports from his own sensor operators. "Unknown contacts? How many?" "Difficult to determine, sir. They're using some kind of advanced stealth technology. Our sensors keep losing them." Do-hyun's cybernetic eye glowed brighter. "No species in this galaxy has stealth technology superior to ours. It must be a sensor malfunction. He was wrong. The Earth Defense Fleet was using a combination of technologies learned from studying alien civilizations for 3 centuries. Stealth systems based on Zephyr phase shifting, shield harmonics borrowed from crystal world energy manipulation, propulsion systems that improved on Centauri gravity drives. But most importantly, they were using something no other species possessed: 300 years of patient observation and preparation. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Hana from the Horizon's Edge sensor station, "we have confirmed positions on all hegemony vessels. Tactical analysis complete." "Excellent. Commander Sora, signal all ships. Decloak on my mark." Around the Kepler system, space itself seemed to shimmer. What had appeared to be empty void suddenly filled with sleek, angular ships unlike anything in galactic databases. Not dozens, not hundreds. Over 2,000 vessels appeared simultaneously. On Kepler station, Minho stared at his tactical display in shock. "Where did they come from?" "Unknown, sir. They just appeared. Wait, we're receiving a transmission." The view screen activated, showing a human face for the first time in galactic history. Admiral Tay looked calm and confident, his dark eyes showing no trace of aggression. "Kepler Station, this is Admiral Tay of the Earth Defense Fleet. We are here to assist in your defense. Please move your civilian vessels to safe distance." "Earth?" Minho whispered. "You're really from Earth?" "Yes. And War Commander Do-hyun, I know you can hear this transmission. You have exactly 1 hour to withdraw your forces from Kepler space. This is your only warning." On the hegemony flagship, War Commander Do-hyun studied the human face on his screen. He had conquered dozens of systems, faced hundreds of different alien species, but he had never heard of humans before. "Scan their ships," he ordered. "Find their weaknesses." The tactical report came back minutes later and it made no sense. The human vessels were using completely unknown technology. Their energy signatures were unlike anything in hegemony databases. Even their hull materials were unidentifiable. "Sir," reported his science officer nervously, "we cannot determine their capabilities. These ships are impossible." Do-hyun's laugh was harsh and metallic. "Nothing is impossible. They're probably some minor species with experimental technology. 800 ships against 2,000 might be poor odds, but our vessels are proven in battle." He activated the fleet communication system. "All ships prepare for combat. Unknown vessels, you have interfered in hegemony business. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Admiral Tay's response was broadcast across all frequencies. "War Commander, you are threatening innocent civilians. We cannot allow that. Last chance to withdraw peacefully. I am War Commander Do-hyun of the Hegemony 3rd Fleet. We do not retreat from primitive aliens with unknown technology. Tae sighed. Very well. All ships, you are authorized to use minimum necessary force to protect the Kepler colonies. Disable their vessels if possible. These beings are not evil, just misguided. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. The Earth Defense Fleet moved with precision that seemed impossible for such a large force. Every ship knew exactly where to go, exactly what to do. Human vessels flowed around hegemony ships like water around rocks. Their weapons fired with surgical precision, targeting engines and weapon systems rather than crew compartments. Ships that should have been destroyed were instead left floating helplessly in space. War Commander Do-hyun watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically disabled. His flagship shook under precise weapons fire that somehow left his crew unharmed, while destroying his ability to fight back. How is this possible? He demanded. The answer came from Admiral Tae's voice over the communication system. War Commander, we have been studying galactic warfare for 300 years. We know the weaknesses of every ship design, every weapon system, every tactical doctrine used by every species. Most importantly, we know that victory without honor is meaningless. Within 2 hours, the entire Hegemony 3rd Fleet was disabled. Not destroyed, not slaughtered, simply rendered incapable of threatening anyone. Human ships moved among the wreckage, rescuing Hegemony survivors and providing medical aid. On Kepler Station, Minho watched Earth ships with amazement. They could have destroyed the entire Hegemony fleet, but they chose mercy instead. Throughout the galaxy, alien governments received reports of the impossible battle. A species that had been silent for centuries had emerged with the most powerful fleet anyone had ever seen, and they had used that power not for conquest, but for protection. In the Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador Hyun read the initial battle reports with trembling hands. The humans, he whispered. They were never hiding in fear. They were preparing to be our guardians. Minho ran through the corridors of Kepler Station as alarms blared around him. As the colony administrator, he had hoped never to hear those particular alarms. They meant only one thing. The hegemony was coming. How long do we have? He asked Captain Yuna, the station security chief, as they reached the command center. 3 days, maybe 4, Yuna replied, her face grim. Their advanced scouts are already in the outer system. The main fleet will arrive soon after. Minho looked at the tactical display showing red dots approaching their peaceful mining colonies. 4 billion people lived in the Kepler system. Farmers on the green worlds, miners on the asteroid stations, families who had never known war. Send the distress call again, he ordered. All frequencies. Someone in the galaxy must be willing to help. But Minho knew the truth. The Galactic Council's peacekeeping forces were already fighting on 6 different fronts. They had no ships to spare for one more system under threat. The Kepler colonies would stand alone. Light years away, on a hidden observation post in the Vega system, Captain June received Kepler's desperate messages. His small reconnaissance ship looked like an ordinary asteroid to alien sensors, but it was actually one of Earth's most advanced vessels. For 50 years, June had watched alien civilizations from the shadows. He had seen the hegemony's tactics before. They would demand surrender first. When the colonies refused, they would attack civilian targets to break morale. Then would come the invasion and occupation. Sir, said his communications officer, Lieutenant Do-hyun, we're picking up increased hegemony military traffic. This isn't just another raid. They're committing their entire 3rd Fleet to the Kepler assault. June nodded grimly. The hegemony's 3rd Fleet contained over 800 warships. The Kepler colonies had maybe 30 outdated patrol boats for system defense. It would not be a battle. It would be a slaughter. Send a priority message to Earth Command, June ordered. Include all tactical data on hegemony forces. Mark it as Operation Guardian Angel. Operation Guardian Angel was Earth's code name for protecting innocent alien civilizations from aggression. For centuries, human observers had quietly prevented several potential massacres by sharing intelligence with local defense forces, but they had never intervened directly. Back on Nexus Prime, Ambassador Hyun watched the emergency session with growing frustration. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives shouted at each other while precious time slipped away. The Kepler system has formally requested military assistance, announced the Council President. What forces can member worlds commit? The answers were depressing. The Valari Republic could spare maybe 50 ships, but they would take weeks to arrive. The Crystal Worlds had no military vessels in that sector. The Centauri Federation was already defending their own colonies from hegemony attacks. What about asking the humans again? Hyun suggested. Send one final message to Earth. Several representatives laughed. Hyun, you're becoming obsessed with these mythical humans, said Ambassador Kelrin. Even if they still exist, what could they possibly do that our combined fleets cannot? But Hyun was desperate. The Kepler colonies were peaceful traders who had never threatened anyone. They deserve protection. We have to try something. Send the message. On Earth, in the hidden command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Yuna analyzed the latest intelligence reports. As Earth's leading expert on alien biology and psychology, she had studied every known species in the galaxy. Her recommendations would help determine humanity's first official contact with alien civilization. The hegemony forces are led by War Commander Do-hyun, she reported, to the assembled Earth Defense Council. He's conquered 17 systems in the past decade. His tactics are brutal but predictable. He always begins with overwhelming force against civilian targets. President Kim looked around the table at Earth's military and political leaders. Dr. Yuna, in your assessment, can the Kepler colonies defend themselves? No chance. The hegemony outnumbers them 30-1. Without intervention, the Kepler system will fall within hours of the attack beginning. General Park, head of the Earth Defense Force, leaned forward. Madam President, our fleet is ready. We can reach Kepler before the hegemony arrives, but once we reveal ourselves, there's no going back. The galaxy will know we exist. The room fell silent. For 3 centuries, Earth's survival had depended on secrecy. No alien species knew about humanity's advanced technology or massive fleet. That anonymity had protected Earth from becoming a target, but it had also prevented Earth from saving innocent lives. Show me the tactical situation, President Kim ordered. The holographic display showed the Kepler system in detail. Green worlds with billions of peaceful aliens, mining stations in asteroid belts, orbital habitats around gas giants, all of them helpless against the approaching hegemony fleet. If we intervene, asked President Kim, can we protect the civilians without revealing the full extent of our capabilities? Admiral Tae, participating via secure communication from his flagship, answered immediately. Yes, Madam President. We can eliminate the hegemony threat with minimal ship exposure. The galaxy doesn't need to know we have 4,000 vessels. A few hundred should be sufficient. Dr. Yuna nodded in agreement. The psychological impact of unknown human ships appearing to defend Kepler will be enormous. It will make every aggressive species think twice before attacking peaceful worlds. And the risks? President Kim asked. Once we reveal ourselves, we become part of galactic politics, answered Foreign Minister Lee. Some species will want to be our allies. Others will see us as a threat. Earth will never be truly safe again. President Kim walked to the window overlooking the mountain valley. 300 years ago, her predecessors had chosen isolation to protect humanity. Now she faced the opposite choice. Break that isolation to protect others. In the Kepler system, Minho received a response to his distress calls. Not from the Galactic Council, but from an unknown source. The message was simple. Kepler Station, this is Earth Fleet Command. We have received your distress call. Help is coming. Earth? Minho stared at his communications officer. Did they say Earth? The mythical humans? That's what the message says, sir. But there's no identification codes. No ship registrations. It could be a hoax. Minho knew it probably was a hoax. Some cruel joke played by pirates or smugglers. But as he watched the hegemony fleet approaching on his sensors, he decided to believe. Sometimes hope was all that stood between civilization and darkness. On the bridge of the horizon's edge, Admiral Tae received President Kim's final authorization. Earth was officially breaking 3 centuries of isolation. Operation Guardian Angel was now a full military intervention. All ships, this is Admiral Tae, he broadcast to the human fleet. We are now authorized to protect the Kepler colonies by any means necessary. Remember, we are not conquering. We are liberating. Our goal is to save lives, not take them. Around him, invisible to alien sensors, the Earth Defense Fleet moved into position. Ships that incorporated technology from a dozen different species, improved by 3 centuries of human innovation. Vessels designed not for glory or conquest, but for the protection of innocent life. The galaxy was about to meet its new guardians. The Great Hall of Nexus Prime buzzed with hundreds of different voices. Aliens from across the galaxy sat in their assigned seats, discussing trade routes and territorial disputes. Ambassador Hyun looked around the massive chamber and sighed. After 300 years, one seat remained empty. Earth seat. Hyun pulled up the file on his datapad. The small blue planet in the Sol system had received every invitation, every message, every desperate plea for contact. The humans had achieved basic spaceflight centuries ago, but then they simply vanished from galactic affairs. No responses. No contact, nothing. Maybe they all died, muttered Ambassador Kelren from the Zephyri Empire, his green scales shimmering under the chamber lights. Primitive species often destroy themselves. Hyun shook his head. Our scouts confirm there are still billions of them down there. Cities, agriculture, even some orbital stations. They're alive. They just don't want to talk to us. The session began as it always did. Trade agreements between the Volari Republic and the Crystal Worlds. Territorial disputes in the Outer Rim. Border security concerns about the growing hegemony threat. All the usual business of a galaxy trying to stay peaceful. But far away in the cold darkness beyond Pluto, something watched. Admiral Tay stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Horizon's Edge. Around him, his crew monitored screens showing the galactic communication networks. They could see everything, hear everything. The aliens thought they were alone, but humans had been listening for 3 centuries. Admiral, said Captain Nara, his intelligence chief, the Council is discussing the hegemony again. Their expansion has accelerated. 3 more systems fell last month. Tay nodded grimly. The hegemony was exactly what Earth's leaders had feared when they first received the galactic invitations. A collection of aggressive species who believed in conquest through force. They had been small back then, just a few systems. Now they controlled nearly a quarter of the galaxy. Any word from Earth Command? Tay asked. President Kim is still reviewing the situation. The cabinet remains divided. Half want to maintain isolation. Half think it's time to reveal ourselves. Tay understood both sides. When humans first detected galactic civilization, they had been excited. Finally, they were not alone in the universe. But then they studied the galactic records. War after war, species enslaved or destroyed, peaceful civilizations crushed by the strong. Earth's leaders made a difficult choice. They would watch and learn. They would prepare, but they would not reveal themselves until they were ready. For 300 years, Earth had been busy. While the galaxy squabbled, humans built. They developed new technologies. They established hidden bases throughout the solar system. They created a fleet that could protect not just Earth, but any world that needed protection. The asteroid belt was no longer just rocks floating in space. It was humanity's greatest shipyard, hidden from alien sensors. Mars hosted training facilities for the Earth. Defense Force, even tiny outposts on the moons of Jupiter, served as early warning systems. Contact. From Deep Space Station 7, reported Lieutenant Minsu from the communication station. Hegemony forces are massing near the Kepler colonies. Tay's jaw tightened. The Kepler colonies were home to nearly 4 billion peaceful aliens. Farmers and miners who had never hurt anyone. If the hegemony attacked them, it would be a massacre. Back on Nexus Prime, Ambassador Hyun was reading the same intelligence reports. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in angry voices as species after species demanded action. We must send peacekeepers, shouted the representative from Altair Prime. Our fleets are already stretched too thin, replied the military commander from Centauri Station. We barely have enough ships to patrol our own borders. Hyun stood up. What about Earth? The humans? Maybe it's time to try again. The chamber fell silent. Then nervous laughter broke out. The humans? Ambassador Kelren's scales darkened with amusement. Hyun, they can barely reach their own moon. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Actually, Hyun said quietly, we haven't had direct contact with them in over 200 years. Our last scout report showed only primitive orbital stations, but maybe they've advanced. Even if they have, said Commander Vex of the Hegemony Forces, his voice cold and mechanical. What could one backward world contribute? We need real military power, not ancient humans with chemical rockets. The Council continued to debate while the hegemony grew stronger. They passed resolutions and formed committees. They wrote strongly worded letters and imposed economic sanctions that the hegemony ignored. Meanwhile, peaceful worlds prepared for invasion. On the horizon's edge, Admiral Tay received an encrypted message from Earth. President Kim had made her decision. After 3 centuries of isolation, Earth was ready to take its place in galactic affairs, but not as a junior partner begging for acceptance. Nara, Tay said to his intelligence chief, send word to all fleet commanders. Operation Silent Vigil is now active. Begin moving ships to forward positions. All ships, sir? That's nearly 4,000 vessels. All ships. It's time the galaxy learned that Earth was never sleeping. We were preparing. Throughout the solar system, hidden bases came alive. On the dark side of the moon, massive hangar doors opened to reveal sleek warships that had never appeared on any alien sensor. In the asteroid belt, construction facilities that looked like mining operations suddenly showed their true purpose. The horizon's edge was just the beginning. Behind it, invisible to alien detection, moved the largest fleet in galactic history, ships designed with technology that no other species possessed, weapons that could disable enemy vessels without destroying them, shields that could deflect attacks while protecting innocent civilians. For 300 years, Earth had been the galaxy's silent student. They had learned from every alien war, every tactical mistake, every technological breakthrough. They had taken the best ideas from a dozen different species and improved upon them. But most importantly, they had learned something the galaxy had forgotten. Military power without moral purpose was just another form of tyranny. Earth's fleet was not built for conquest. It was built for protection. As the hegemony prepared to attack the Kepler colonies, they had no idea they were being watched. Admiral Tay's ships moved through space like ghosts, using stealth technology that made them invisible to conventional sensors. The galaxy was about to discover that the quiet species from Sol had not been hiding in fear. They had been preparing for the day when peaceful worlds needed champions, and that day had finally arrived. The empty seat in the Galactic Council was about to be filled, but not in the way anyone expected. The great red spot of Jupiter was like flying through the heart of hell itself. Massive winds that could tear apart mountains whipped around the indomitable spirit as the ship dove deeper into the storm. Lightning bolts the size of continents crackled through the swirling atmosphere, and the radiation levels climbed to deadly heights. Captain Hyunwoo gripped his command chair as the ship bucked and rolled through the chaos. Hull stress is approaching critical levels, Lieutenant Commander Ji-Hai Park shouted over the noise of straining metal. But the old armor is holding together better than I expected. Behind them, only the most determined Solarian ships had followed them into the storm. Admiral Vexthuri's flagship led a formation of 30 vessels, their energy shields glowing brighter as they tried to protect themselves from Jupiter's fury. The enemy ships are having trouble maintaining formation, sensor operator Min-Ho Kang reported. Their lighter hulls can't handle the gravitational stress like ours can. Navigation officer Dong Hyun Lee was fighting to keep the ship stable as they rode the storm currents deeper into Jupiter's atmosphere.
Captain, I'm detecting a massive electrical buildup in the storm system.
This whole area is about to experience a lightning event like nothing we've ever seen. Hyunwoo saw the opportunity immediately. Can we use Jupiter's magnetic field to amplify our weapons? Chief Tactical Officer Yoon Ji-moon was already running calculations. If we time it right, we might be able to channel the planet's electrical energy through our railgun systems. It would be incredibly dangerous, but the power levels would be enormous. The plan was insane, but it was their only chance. The indomitable spirit positioned itself in the heart of the storm, while the pursuing Solarian ship struggled to maintain pursuit. Admiral Vexthuri's flagship was closing in, its massive weapons preparing to fire. All power to the railgun systems, Hyunwoo ordered.
Ji-Hee, can you overload the reactor without destroying the ship?
I can try, she replied, her hands flying over the engineering controls. But if this goes wrong, the explosion will be visible from Earth. Weapons specialist So Young Choi targeted the enemy flagship with their main gun. Firing solution locked on the Cosmic Dominion. One shot, Captain. If we miss, we won't get another chance. The storm around them reached its peak intensity. Lightning bolts began connecting the various Jovian moons, creating a web of electrical energy that spanned millions of kilometers. The indomitable spirit sat right in the center of this cosmic power grid. Now, Hyunwoo shouted. Ji-Hai triggered the reactor overload at the exact moment that So Young fired the railgun. The massive electromagnetic weapon drew power not just from the ship's reactor, but from Jupiter itself. The planet's magnetic field channeled billions of volts of electricity through the gun's coils. The projectile that emerged was not just a piece of metal. It was a concentrated bolt of planetary energy, moving at nearly the speed of light. When it struck Admiral Vexithari's flagship, the result was spectacular. The cosmic dominion simply ceased to exist. The kinetic round, supercharged with Jupiter's power, didn't just penetrate the enemy ship's shields and armor. It unmade them at the molecular level. Where the 3-kilometer flagship had been, there was now only expanding plasma and debris. The destruction of their command ship sent shockwaves through the entire Solarian fleet. For a moment, the surviving enemy vessels seemed paralyzed by the loss of their leader. Communications officer Tai Min Zhang was monitoring enemy transmissions. "Captain, their fleet coordination is breaking down. Without Admiral Vexthari, they don't seem to know what to do." But the indomitable spirit had paid a heavy price for its victory. The reactor overload had caused massive damage throughout the ship. Life support was failing on multiple decks, and the weapon systems were completely burned out. "We're dead in space," Jihai reported grimly. "The reactor is stable, but we've lost most of our ship systems. We can't fight anymore." Medical Officer Haewon Kim was coordinating damage control teams throughout the vessel. "We've got serious casualties this time." The power surge caused injuries on every deck. It seemed like the end. The indomitable spirit had struck a devastating blow against the enemy. But they were helpless now. The remaining Solarian ships could destroy them at will, but something unexpected was happening in the space around Jupiter. The electromagnetic pulse from the flagship's destruction was spreading outward like a wave, interfering with the advanced computer systems of every nearby Solarian vessel. "The enemy ships are losing power," Minho reported with amazement. "Their networked computer systems are experiencing cascade failures." Dr. Young-Soo Han's ancient AI design was proving its worth one final time. While the Solarian ships relied on interconnected computer networks that were vulnerable to electromagnetic interference, the indomitable spirit's isolated systems remained functional. Taemin was receiving urgent transmissions from the human fleet near Mars. "Captain, the rest of our ships are launching a counterattack. The enemy fleet is in complete disarray." Through the main viewer, they could see the tide of battle turning across the solar system. Human ships that had been retreating hours earlier were now pressing forward, taking advantage of the chaos in enemy ranks. The Solarian Grand Armada, which had seemed invincible just moments before, was falling apart. Without their flagship and commanding admiral, the alien fleet lost its coordination. Individual ship captains began making their own decisions, some trying to retreat while others attempted to continue the attack. The perfect formations that had been their strength became a liability, as ships collided or fired on their own forces by mistake. Lieutenant Jae Hyun managed to get one of the secondary weapons online. "Captain, I've got limited power to the point defense guns. It's not much, but we can still fight." As if summoned by his words, 3 damaged Solarian ships limped toward their position, seeking easy prey. But they had underestimated human determination. The crew of the indomitable spirit wasn't finished yet. Supply Officer Soo-Jin Yang had been working frantically in the ammunition storage areas. "I found something in the emergency supplies," she announced over the intercom. "We've got 12 nuclear warheads left over from the ship's original armament. The nuclear weapons were ancient by space warfare standards, but they were still devastatingly effective." So-Young loaded them into the remaining missile tubes while Yoon-ji calculated firing solutions. The attacking Solarian ships expected an easy victory over the crippled human vessel. Instead, they flew directly into a nuclear ambush. The warheads detonated simultaneously, creating a chain of atomic explosions that vaporized all 3 enemy ships. Across the solar system, the battle was ending. The surviving Solarian ships, leaderless and confused, began retreating toward the outer planets. Some tried to surrender while others simply fled into deep space. Fleet Admiral Kyung-Ho Shin's voice came over the communication system, filled with emotion. "All ships, this is Admiral Shin. The enemy fleet is in full retreat. We have won the battle for Earth." Cheers erupted throughout the human fleet, but the crew of the indomitable spirit was too exhausted to celebrate. They had given everything they had to achieve this victory. "Captain," Dong-hyun said quietly, "we did it. We actually did it." Hyun-woo looked around the damaged bridge at his crew. They were battered and exhausted, but they had proven that human determination could overcome any technological advantage. Rescue ships from the human fleet began arriving to provide assistance. The indomitable spirit would need extensive repairs before it could fight again, but it had already earned its place in history. Months later, when the battle reports were written and the medals were awarded, military historians would struggle to explain how humanity had defeated a technologically superior enemy. The answer was simple but profound. They had remembered that wars are won by people, not machines. The Solarian Empire, shaken by their devastating defeat, would eventually sue for peace. The galaxy learned that humans were not the primitive species they had appeared to be, but a force that could adapt, innovate, and fight with a determination that no advanced technology could match. And at the center of it all was an obsolete prototype warship and its crew, who had refused to accept that newer was always better. The indomitable spirit became the template for a new generation of human warships, built on the principle that sometimes the old ways were the best ways. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.